We've already heard it time and again over the course of the Action Zone. There are no shortcuts to transformational change. If we want to achieve the 2030 Agenda, we have to approach it from every direction, from the government and corporate policymakers at the top, right down to each of us as individuals on the ground. That's what our next guests, both survivors in their own right, are here to explore with us. After escaping child marriage and surviving female genital mutilation, our first speaker went on to found Kakenya's Dream, a nonprofit organization designed to empower girls and transform communities in Kenya. Her first school opened its doors in 2009 with one enrollment condition. Parents could not force marriage or genital mutilation on their daughters. Today, Kakenya's Dream reaches thousands of youth and community members across Kenya each year, thanks to our guest, Dr. Kakenya Ntaiya. And our second speaker is a freelance journalist who became the face of Japan's Me Too movement after speaking out about her experiences as a rape survivor. Her brave public rejection of Japan's outdated rape laws led to a cascade of reforms, including some to the country's penal code, the first in more than a century. We're so pleased to have Shiori Ito. Let's hear from these incredible women now on their own courageous approaches to changing social norms.
Hi, Shiori.
Hi, Kakenya. So
Hi.
great to meet you.
Great to meet great to meet you, and I look forward to chatting with you. Yeah.
Yes, I know we are speaking now from different side of the world, but I think we have so many things to share, and I can't wait to hear your story as a journalist too. So, first of all, please tell me, I love what you have been doing, Kakenya's Dream. It's amazing work you've done. Just tell me how you get there and how you started to, decided to this organization.
Thank you. I think the biggest things that what has inspired me or what has been driving me to do the work that I do is I grew up in a rural community in Kenya. Very, Maasai's, our traditions are very strict. The dreams for girls or women was just to, literally you are born, you are, raised to be a wife, and you're married. And I was engaged when I was 5 years old. Was supposed to be married.
5?
Yes. It's something that I think that it happened because I was considered, my mother was a hardworking woman. So I saw this life that I grew up with that already the society had already dictated my future. And so I had an opportunity to go to school, and that really changed who I have become and the things that I do. So yes, I escaped early marriage, but I did go through female genital cutting. I found myself in a university in the United States, and all of a sudden realizing that apparently girls have rights, and they were not available for me when I was young. So I decided to, go back, create an organization that actually educate girls, empowers them, enables them to escape female genital cutting, escape early marriages, and really achieve their dreams. So that's the work that we're doing at Kakenya's Dream. And tell me about yourself. How did you find yourself to be a storyteller, to be a journalist, and to work on these issues of equality for women and everyone?
Oh, thanks for asking. Well, I guess I was born to be a journalist. I'm curious about so many things, and but I feel like growing up in Japan, there is a saying, old saying, like sticky nail has to be hammered, and I was always the sticky nail. And so in Japan also, we don't have the child marriage idea, but we do have something similar. I mean, our age of marriage for women has been raised this year to 18 years old from 16, but the age of consent for sex, it still remains to 13 years old. So which means you can, have an intercourse and you can maybe be a mother, but you can't get married until you're 18. So it's really still our law is so old, and yeah, there's still something to do. So I've been questioning about these things that I always have questioned as a girl, to bring on to my own, field. And then one day I experienced the sexual violence, and then I realized that I was always embedded with very, I have to say, sexism, society, masculine society. And I just didn't know what to do. But then I found my way to go to police, to go to try to, follow the legal path. But then I just also found out that the time I was going to police it back in 2015, we were still carrying 110 years of old of rape law, which, was made in the time when women didn't even have, rights to vote and so on. And I realized how ignorant I was. And so from that day, I start questioning, or more question, why are we still here today? And what you just say about your experience, Kakenya, really sparks to me, because I feel like so many Japanese women decided to leave Japan when they know that there is only limited opportunity. For instance, you have to, quit your job when you're married or when you become mother. So they're afraid to go back to Japan. But what you did, you found a way out from your society, and you learned something in the States. You were the first person to go to university from your village, right? That's amazing. And you still decided to go back to your society and start your own school. That's, I think, such amazing and, courageous step that you did. Please tell me more about it. Why you decided to go back, and why you decided to, start your own organization.
I think the biggest thing was that, and you can tell, like even from your story, that when you experience something and you all of a sudden find that I felt like I pushed the society. It wasn't just easy to go to school. I negotiated with my father, I negotiated with my community. And then after really gaining my education, I felt that, there was no way like I could just live in a different place and like forget the women and girls in my community. Like my parents still live there. My sister still lived there. I felt like the neighbors were still there. I knew people there. And every time I had a story of a child marriage, I had a story of FGM. It wasn't that a story that was foreign. It was a story that was real. And I think for me, it was like, I keep telling the girls that let my story be the last that is told about FGM. I want your story to be, of a girl who has grown like any other girl in the world, who is running, jumping rope, and has dreams, and she can actually achieve. And I think that my going back to my community was my way of figuring out how I can play a little role. When I was starting, I said, I want just to help 10 girls. I laugh at myself and how far we've come now, having about, over 700 girls that we've directly impacted. But the challenge was really for me was the fact that I went back and worked in the same community was pretty hard. The men still saw me as a child who didn't know what she was doing, and I had to figure a way of like bringing them on board, because I knew that if I went like as a very tough activist who was saying no to FGM, no to they wouldn't listen to me. So I had to find ways to negotiate with them, be patient, bring them on the table, listen to them, but yet sell my ideas to them. It's a very tough place to find yourself when you're working within your culture, within your community. And sometimes they say things you feel like I should just shout, but then you're like, no, progress takes time. And I'm going to be quiet at the moment, but I know it's going to change. So I think that's kind of like the pushing realities. And I think if you can share with me, how is it now in Japan? Do you see us making a difference? Do you think this movement of the SDGs or the movement of equality and changing the world, empowering people. How do you find it now in your own communities in Japan? But also, let's think about it like globally. How do you think we are doing?
Yes. Well, I think, like I said, there are so many things that I should be updated, starting from the legal system. I mean, I look back when I was 13 years old, I don't think I knew, like, I couldn't imagine to be a mother, but then that's still, is the age of sex of consent in Japan. And also, you talked about how you have to have a conversation, dialogue with the people who is in power, who has been, dealing with the way it works in life in, your own society. And I think it's a lot to do with the tradition, but then the media who's making the tradition, which is my own, field. And I think there are so many things that we still have to do to really talk to people's mind and to change the idea of a tradition that we haven't yet updated. Unfortunately, Japan is quite progressive country, but then when it comes to gender equality, for instance, we only have less than 10% of female politicians. Like the lawmakers, are almost all men. And when we have that situation, the rules we have won't be updated. So even though we speak, even though we try so hard through media, I still feel that there are so many things that we have to push. But people are afraid, especially in my society, I feel, to voice up, because once I said, the sticking nails has to be hammered. So what we have to do is that don't be a stick nail. We have to be stick nails. We all have to speak up to be able to, so that, no one can be hammer us all. But I think that's how we have to do. And what we can do is to empower. And I think when I look at you, it's amazing role model. You try so hard to find a way to, communicate, to discuss, to really, implement the dream. You thought it would be great, for education for girls. And when I see you, I think I can see the hope that we can still have that kind of dialogue. And I think that's my work as a journalist, to show and showcase such a, empowering women around the world, so we can learn a lot. And but I know,
I think Shiori is just amazing. I mean, my word today, I think the word sticking nail, it's and how we need to create a lot of them. I think I take that with me. And you're a sticking nail. You've been pushing the boundaries. We will push the boundaries. We'll keep mentoring many more people, bringing more on the table, because until we change that picture that we see people who are making laws, it's not just in Japan. I mean, come to Kenya. Yes, we are progressive. You're moving, but when you look at the picture of like who is in leadership, you'll find a lot of men and then 2 women. So we have to change that. And I think that starts with, your work, my work, and many more people, those who are listening to us, to inspire others to create more sticking nails so that we can actually pop and empower women, empower girls, and create an equal world. So kudos to you. That is amazing.
It's amazing. And this world right now, we're just now like number, like we just said, nice to meet you. And this is what we can do through internet, through social media. We can empower each other the way we couldn't do before. And I get to know your work through internet. So I feel like it's the barrier of this information are now, it's no longer there. So I mean, sometimes for me, when I think about online, because I felt I was a sticking nail, I felt so much, threat going around me. But then again, this as well, when I can find other stick nails around the world, I feel more empowered. And I think that's what we have to do when we see I'm sure you've been there, when you talk about gender, when you talk about feminism, when you talk about empowering girls, these people who are afraid of change would speak back to us in a very nasty way. But the only one thing that I'm concerned about internet is that these words can stay and people can see that. So I feel like we always have to speak back with the word, with love, to just try to pile up with other words that can empower others. Let's say if we see one negative comment, we just give two positive comments, sort of, so that we
Absolutely.
see more support. So yeah, let's be
Yeah.
stick snail everywhere, I guess.
That's amazing. I'm really, really honored to meet you. I look forward to seeing a lot of you and, continue to inspiring you. And I said, what we face as the first, I think that always is like, we don't want that to happen to the other girls. So we are going to change and
Yeah.
inspiring more people to join in the movement. And yes, thank you.
Yes.
Great to have a
Thank
conversation with
you.
you.
You
Yeah.
too.